All right, we should be live, everyone. Wonderful. Okay, let's just do that. Welcome to our monthly book chat with our very special guest, Gail Carriger, who is here to discuss our fantastic book pick of the month, which is Etiquette and Espionage. Right there. Gail has it right there in the corner, and I have it right here in my hands too. How delightful. Gail, welcome back to Book Chat. It's so wonderful to have you here. It's been ever so long since I saw you.
It's been so long. Just
So
ages
long.
and ages and ages. A whole like 4 days. Oh my God.
Oh,
Age.
shall we
Uh,
get on?
it has been a while since I've been on book chat, so I'm very
Yes.
excited to be back. Although you all are going to have to excuse my incredibly sieve-like memory because it was perhaps 13 or 14 years since I wrote this book. So I'm not sure how much I'm going to remember of it, but I will do my best.
Well, I heard a rumor, actually, I heard it from you yesterday during your live, that it is the 10th anniversary today of the release of the final book in this
Yeah,
series.
this one, Manners and Mutiny. Yeah, it's its 10th anniversary today. Arbitrarily I looked at the calendar. I have all of my books' birthdays and their years of birth on my calendar. And I was like, that is very symbolic to be talking about etiquette and espionage on the birthday of the final one in the series. So,
I love that we can help celebrate the 10th anniversary of the final book today. This is such a wonderful series. It is young adult. You have like another young adult piece, Crudrat, right?
right,
So
yeah. Somewhere on here. Yes, I have Carteret, and then the Tinker Star song is sort of, but not quite young adult. It's more
no.
new adult, but nobody likes that moniker. So, but yes, Carteret is definitely young adult.
Did Crudrat
And
precede
first,
etiquette? It came first.
did I
So
read
you
it
had
first?
a
Mm.
little practice writing young adults
Yes.
before you got
But
into
Carteret was
this.
never out. I did not release Carteret for years. It came out in audio as a full cast audio drama, but it didn't come out as a book for years and years and years. So this was the first book series that came out, but I had some practice and I used what I would call YA techniques when I was writing the Soulless series as well. I used a lot of I kind of my DNA as a writer is pretty YA-ish, I would say. Not necessarily in terms of coming of age narratives and Bildungsroman, but in terms of sort of self-actualization narratives and finding your people, which are also really common in a lot of YA, but also in terms of the pacing techniques that I use, characterization, and also like kind of action sequences and stuff like that. I tend to seek from YA quite a bit. And also length. I'm relatively short page length or word length as an author. And that is because I sort of naturally write YA length stuff. Like 80,000 words is really comfortable for me. So, which for
So
those of you out there is relatively short for adult length.
I find your books always to be like the perfect sort of scrummy bite of fiction. I love the length, and I never consider whether or not they're long or short because you do such a wonderful job of your pacing and fitting the story into the scope that you have. I'm always like quite
Thank you. It's
satisfied
not
at the end.
intentional. They just naturally fall out that way.
Like the perfect tart, they are the perfect size. I was going to ask if it was like sort of adjustment for you going from writing adult fiction into young adult, but clearly that's not the
No.
case. You were very comfortable making that.
Very, yeah, very, very comfortable. And in fact, I was very open back in the day. I think I had a live journal at the time, maybe also a blog spot. All of these posts and things are also on my regular blog now, my website. But in the time, I think it was live journal. I was pretty open about the fact that I loved YA and that a lot of my favorite authors are YA authors. And so this series came about because the editor reached out to me. So the editor at Little Brown was like, "We know you like YA. Have you ever considered writing it?" And I was like, well. Why, yes, I have. And
No,
so yeah.
I admit to everyone that I recommend you to that I am biased. You are my chum. I do adore you, but I was a fan first, and I so adored Soulless. I just gobbled it up. I vividly remember where I was and how quickly I read through each of your books. Uh, but there was something so absolutely spot on for me about etiquette and espionage that even though I was already in love with your work, I was like, oh no, now I'm obsessed. This is a fantastic series. And obviously, you wrote it after you wrote The Parasol Protectorate, so you don't have to read it in this order with the finishing school books. But I do find them to be a wonderful entree to your work. Do you do you have a preference for how you like introduce people to your books? Are you like, oh, you should start with finishing school? Or you're like, no, read it in publication order. But this is like, I know you have a list of the
Yes, I mean,
chronology.
personally, I think they should be read in world chronological order, but most of my readers disagree with me. So these days, I tend to, if the person is an adult reader who I think will like the Parasolverse universe in general, I usually recommend Soulless.
Mm,
If they're younger, if they're a teenager, then I will recommend Etiquette and
yeah.
Espionage. And that's just the I just go with the age group now because so many of my readers are so up in arms if I recommend people start with Etiquette and Espionage, and so many adult readers are anti-YA. Or they have a attitude about it or whatever. And so I'm like, okay, well, if you want adult characters doing adult things, then read Solus. So yeah, that's kind of to get back, what I was gonna say about the YA-ness of it is to get
Yes.
back to your previous question.
Mm,
You asked me if it was odd for me. It was not, but it
yes.
turned out it was odd for everybody else involved in the publishing system. So they actually did not trust me to be able to write YA, even though I had a proven track record at that point and New York Times bestsellers and stuff. It was all in the adult sphere, and so they made me write almost half of this book. Before they would accept, but partly, I mean, it's sort of understandable because I pitched it as a four-book series, and so we were gonna sell it as a four-book series, which means for those of you unfamiliar with traditional publishing, they would have to pay me the advances for all four of those books at once. So they were gonna cut me a large check if they
Aha.
decided to sign me for this four-book series. So they wanted me to prove that I could write for the age group.
Okay.
And I was
Okay.
like, sure. So I actually, and this is also pretty unusual. If an author has a proven track record, you usually don't have to write on spec. In other words, you usually don't have to actually write the book in order to sell it unless you're going well outside of your field. So, especially when the editor had come to me initially. But I wrote about half of it, and then I gave it to my agent, and my agent was like, "This is so silly and funny and ridiculous." And I was like, "Agent, this is how I write." And she was like, yes, but it really tonally makes the book seem very young. And so she actually had me age it down to middle grade. And so it was actually middle grade when it was submitted to my editor or the person who was interested in it. And then she was like, no, 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 we wanted it YA. And so I just turned around and sent her the previous draft before I had downgraded it to middle grade or pulled it back to middle grade.
Yeah.
Downgraded sounds weird. It wasn't down, it's just a different genre. And then the editor was like, no, no, this is perfect. And that was the point about, 6 years into my relationship with my agent, where my agent was like, I'm never editing you. Clearly, my advice with you is terrible. We're never, and she pretty much never has, except she's done she actually was really helpful in Divinity 36. So, but that was some 15 years later. Yeah, so it was a whole funny thing, the inception of the book. But that earlier draft, the YA draft, the one I had pretty much first written, was the one that went off, and then they were delighted with it, and that's how we got the four-book series. But one of the reasons I think people really enjoy certain aspects of this series rather than my first one is that this one was written four books back to back, consistent. I had an
Mm,
outline both
mm,
for each book and for how the four books would jive together. And so it's almost like it was written like one big book. And
mm.
I think that makes it a very sort of clean, tight, and also I had to keep it very sort of tight and structured and tidy because it's YA. And YA has to be particularly fast-paced because obviously you need to hold the young people's attentions. So, yeah.
Oh, I reread the book, of course, before book chat, which was not this was not a hardship for me. I I admit I've read all of your books several times because I love them dearly. But this time I listened to it. I'd never listened to the audio
Yeah.
books, and I enjoyed your audio narrator. And it's true, the pacing is extraordinary in this book. It's so gripping from that first moment with Sophronia, diving out of the dumbwaiter, and it
Like
just
Dreyfus.
tells you everything about her. Poor Mrs. Barnacle Goose,
Poor
who,
Mrs. Barnacle Gourd. She turns
oh,
out to be a good one in the end, though, of
yes,
course.
yeah, yes. So I know you've shared in the past, honestly, many times when I've heard you speaking about your writing and sharing about it in the Chirrup, you've been very honest that you have an inception point for many of your stories,
An
where you have
epiphany.
this yes, your epiphany, where you have this strong vision, a scene. Do you recall the scene that was it for Etiquette and Espionage? The one that got you into the story.
This is interesting because originally I was always tempted to say it actually was the opening scene, which is not normal for me, the dumbwaiter scene. But I don't think it is. In trying to really remember, I think it is the meeting Dimity Pillover and then taking over the carriage, the
The
like
carriage.
the young lady actually driving a carriage, shocking behavior for a woman. Anyway, yes, but I think it's Dimity and Pilliver and like meeting the two of them in the. I think I was I was at a panel some point this year on boarding schools, and I was talking, and these sorts of tropes came up, and one of those tropes is there's always this, especially in the boarding schools from like early days, from the Victorian era itself, the Victorian boarding school narratives. There's always this like meeting the other students arriving at boarding school together, and you can think about it just with like the Harry Potter books or what have you. And so I think that's partly why that was the first thing that crystallized in the whole thing. Because I always knew if I wrote YA, I really wanted to write a boarding school narrative. It's very much like I love a house party narrative. I love a bunch of people kind of trapped together concept. My parents are
Yes.
mystery readers by and large. I think it comes from that DNA. But so the boarding school is such a wonderful, gorgeous melting pot situation where you can
Yes.
throw all these eccentric characters and then like trap them and see what happens.
A little bit forced proximity, but
Yes.
not in that romancy way
No, just
necessarily.
like how can we make these people, these eccentric people bounce off of each other? And then of course the structure of the class system that's inherent in a boarding school, as well as the teachers and all that stuff. So the
It's
absence of
fantastic.
parents and family, so there's sort of this unmooredness to boarding schools, which I
Mm.
made literal with the dirigible drifting around.
Yes. I was like, oh yes, well, it's in a dirigible. Definitely
Exactly.
unmoored. I
Definitely
love
on
it.
board. But that's the sensation I think you often feel when you read a boarding school narrative is that even if it's not a portal fantasy, there's this alternate worldness to it, to the idea of a boarding school. So
Oh, now look, I could go on, to be honest, as you are very well aware. I could monopolize you this whole time and be quite happy, but that's why I just have to have you on it for a long form interview when you're back in the States after your adventures that are upcoming. In the meantime, I've always promised that I leave plenty of time for everyone else to get at least one question in. So I shall release us back into the fold of our wonderful community. And everyone, you will get a chance to ask your question. We have a full house today, so it may only be one question, but you will get at least one. So let's remove our spotlights and welcome everyone in, my friends. I will call on you and we'll go through the room. If I miss you, please help me by posting in the chat so I make certain not to miss anyone before we go for a second round. All right. And because Karen is traveling the furthest, all the way from Adelaide, we'll start with Karen. Hello, Karen. I have a question for you before you get to ask Miss Gale her question, because that's the exchange. I get to ask you a question, and then you get to ask a question. So, Karen,
Yeah.
this is a special question just for you. This isn't for everyone else. But Karen and I have a little repartee. What was the question you were afraid I would ask, Gail, that I
Which was
didn't ask her?
that, well, you asked the one about which incited it, but I actually have a list of 4 questions this time.
Mhm.
Um,
All right.
I have to do a writing question, of course, because that's what you expect. Yep. Miss Gale, what do you find the most difficult in the process of your world building?
Ooh, in the process of world building. That's really interesting because I actually find the world building the easiest and probably the most fun. I
Yes.
suspect I ought to be a dungeon master and not a writer at all because like I just happily write world and then create characters. It's the fact that something has to happen between them that I'm suddenly like, oh dear, we must write a story. There's that part of the equation. Um, so I mean that's a bit of a cop-out answer, but like it's my favorite is the world building because partly because I ground all of my world building, even the sci-fi stuff, in some sort of researched reality. And I'm a researcher by nature, so I just love like I'm having perhaps too much fun on the current Parasolverse book I'm working on because it's taking place in little bits and bobs all over the world. And so I get to like suddenly tunnel into research on Siberia. Very exciting and interesting, especially in the depths of winter. How do people survive? How did they survive? And so on and so forth.
Oh,
So yeah.
I
So
did.
love it.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, that's my favourite too, I must admit. And I am a long-term DM. So there
Ah,
you go.
you see, there it is.
Thank you.
Thank you, Karen. Gail, I would play a game you DM'd in a heartbeat. I'm certain it'd be marvelous.
I've never tried, I have to say. And I suspect it'd have to be freeform because I would insist on being mistress of the universe and inventing everything whole cloth. But also I'm very evil. So I suspect I would be a nasty DM. I
Yeah,
think it would be
nasty but fun.
hard to win, especially when I'm creating all the rules.
Tough but fair, as they like to say. Yeah, no, I'm certain it would be marvelous. I like freeform though. So, all right, Lady June Squirrel, it's your turn. I'd say because you are, of course, my favorite, but also you've reread the book as much as I have. So,
Oh, yes. Well, first of all, I'd like to say to Gail that after watching you live stream last month, I had to go out and buy the tables of history, the timetables of
Oh, the
history.
timetables of history.
It
Oh
weighs a,
my God.
it weighs a
It's
ton.
massive, isn't it? I know, I know. Well, I showed you in the live stream, so you know
Yeah,
how huge it is.
but I've
Actually,
been
I'm
looking at,
I'm I'm off to Thailand and I'm like, oh shoot, I'm in a part of the book where I need the timetables. I
yeah,
cannot carry that book to Thailand with
God,
me.
it must weigh
So
five
I don't know what
pounds.
I'm gonna do. I think I'm gonna have to photograph many pages.
Yeah, because I looked up my birth date, my daughter's, both of my daughter's birth
It's
dates.
fun, is it?
Yeah. Anyway,
I will, where is it? It's around. I'll just get it. If anybody,
yeah,
if anybody,
it's huge.
anybody doesn't know what we're talking about this monstrosity, um, which is the timetables of history from who's it from? I don't know. Oh, just a dude. Okay, from just a white dude, I suspect. But anyway,
Yeah.
cool thing about it is it's like these massive spreadsheets. And then they have rows by year and then columns by different things. So like literature and theater, religion and philosophy, visual arts, politics, so on and so forth. And what
Mhm.
I do with my books is I then chart them into this. So like there's the finishing school series, for example. So it says which book is taking place here, and then I write important events that happen within those books that then other books I write will probably end up having to reference. For example, when Lord Vacan challenges for the pack dominance when he leaves Scotland, that shows up in
Oh,
passing in the finishing school series. Um,
yeah.
right. So like yeah. So that's I use this beast like as sort of my timeline as well as the world's. Very
Yeah,
neat.
it's
That's what Jude is
amazing.
talking about.
Does that
oh,
take up
I
my
love that.
question?
I'm so obsessed with this book now too. I really need to get my own copy just for,
Did, did I
leisure reading.
did
Uh,
I did I use my question up by saying
no,
that? Oh,
No,
okay.
you may use your question now.
Okay, first of all, Mrs. Barnacle Goose and Bumbersnoot are my favorites, but um, my question is sort of outside all the books. It's about the werewolves have to have military service,
Yeah.
and I would like to know whether or not they fight during the full moon. Do they fight as werewolves? Do they fight as people, as humans, and do they only fight at night? I was just thinking about that.
Yes. Okay. So the conceits of the rules and the conceits of the universe are that you can only be shifted into wolf form at night. So if the
Right.
right. So if the army wishes to use it, it would be for a nighttime campaign. And by and large, that's how they're used, which is why most of the time an alpha goes with the pack when it's deployed. So it's the entire pack. Only the London pack has this exception where Channing took off with the contingent. They are probably not fighting in wolf form when there's no alpha around to keep them under control. Because most of the sort of lower ranked werewolves, they don't have much of their human senses left, so they're only really good as like muddlers. They're only really good as like full on beast attacks. So you have to like be judicious about how you would deploy them. But the
Okay.
way I envisioned it, this is what gives the Empire expansion it's most of its like clout, for lack of a better. I was actually thinking about conscription was always something I wanted to deal with because I wanted to make their integration into the British Empire this sort of unwilling mandatoriness, but also it's the only way they have acceptance within society is that they sort of entered into the regimental system. If you know anything about the British regimental system, it's almost pack-like. Like it's a very interesting sort of subsystem of the way the military works in the UK. So I thought like so that kind of felt natural to me. But so and I'm sort of fascinated by the concept of conscription and why it's done in different cultures. So I wanted to make that and I wanted to make it very kind of over the head obvious that the power of the throne was backed by utilization of monstrosity rather than othering of the monsters. So they wholeheartedly accept them mostly as weaponry. And the vampires are doing their own thing with spies and stuff like that that is equally useful. But the werewolves are literally on the front lines. And you will get to see the military packs in action in the current book. Because the current
Oh,
book takes you through the main character is made a werewolf at the Battle of Waterloo, where he should have died but doesn't, and so is made a werewolf in battle and then continues to serve. And so you see him both from as a military
mhm.
kid, like as a human military member, and then as a werewolf military member. So you'll get to see it in the new book. So this is a
See,
very
I was
good question.
I was promoting your new book.
You were
Anyway,
clearly.
thank you very much. Thank you.
Yeah, it's fun to
Thank you, Lady June Squill. Excellent questions, and comments and observations. Thank you, Gail. All right, Marty, it is your turn.
There.
She ready? She seems to be looking
Yep.
for something.
Yes,
Just a little
Marty,
question. What?
go ahead. Please ask your question.
I was just wondering, now that you're feline less, are you going to be getting another one at
I
all?
thought about it. For those who don't know, I lost my very, very beloved cat. And
I'm so sorry.
it's very sad. It is a huge loss. And part of it is I am still quite heartbroken and I don't know that I'm ready yet. And part of it is my life since my dad has not settled down in terms of the people around me becoming ill and needing me to be mobile because I am unencumbered now by anything, including no pets, no significant other, no nothing. I am the most mobile of my particular friendship group. And I have a job that allows me to write wherever I wish and the ability and capacity to travel. So I am I'm very much in motion for the foreseeable future, mostly for reasons of friends and family being sick and me wanting to go there and be with them. If being with my father taught me nothing, it was that you do for the people you love, if at all possible, while they're at the end of their lives. Like,
Yeah,
why
quite a
else are we
year.
here if not for that, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, so no cat for now, simply because any cat I got now would probably become my assistant's cat or my house sitter's cat because I'm just not home very much. And I don't think that's going to be changing for a couple of years, I think.
Oh,
So it will be a while, but that's, I'm not ruling it out. I would love to have a cat again. Although, since I insist on training my cat to use the human toilet, it's always a bit of a, I need to be home for a good 6 months to make sure that cat is disciplined appropriately. So a cat is a labor of obedience training in Gail's universe. So yes. So yeah, but I'm not, I'm absolutely not. I am a cat person. I would love to have cats again. So
Well,
I get to
thank
visit
you,
cats.
Marty.
huh?
The lovely Madame Askew sends me a picture of her cat when I'm lucky. I'm very excited about that. And then we have another dear friend who sends me, I guess, so I get updates of cats. And then occasionally you'll see me go onto social media and just beg for pictures of cats because
Oh,
I genuinely would love to see everybody's cats. I love cats. Want to meet your cat, would like to pet your cat if your cat is willing. So yeah.
okay.
And the nice thing is that whenever you're here, Cake would like Monsieur Ghetto would like to be petted by you.
Yes, he is
He's a friend.
immediately in my lap. It is very flattering. And also, I'm covered in all of the cat hair. Covered.
All of it. Absolutely true. Thank you, Marty, for
Welcome.
your lovely question. All right, Terry, the ball passes to you, my friend.
Thank you very much. My question has nothing to do with the book. However, I have loved this book since it came out because of the dumbwaiter scene.
Thank
That one just gripped me
you.
because who doesn't love dumbwaiters and boarding schools?
And who hasn't wanted to get into a dumbwaiter? I mean, I don't know about you, but I was like, it is a mini escalator thing. I'm wildly
Yes.
curious about this whole
Yes,
situation.
absolutely, absolutely. Now, my and you've told us yesterday in your live that you are going to visit Piper.
I
So
am.
please take our heartfelt love
I will.
to her and
I
our
will.
wishes for her recovery.
Yeah, I absolutely will. Yeah, everybody's been so sweet about it. For anyone who doesn't know, Piper is one of my very best friends, and we met because of writing. We're both writers. And she lives in Thailand now, and she's quite sick. So she is one of the people I am going to be with. Yeah, so I will. So everybody has been like sending the love, and everybody is giving me little gifts of food. I have a suitcase full of food. I had to look up Thai customs. I was like, can I even take food into Thailand? Yes, you can take food into Thailand.
Good.
Phew. So yes, but I will pass along yeah, I will definitely pass along your
Good.
thought.
Thank you. Now the question is, how do you train the cat to use the toilet?
You must find a cat that is motivated. Either some cats are
Um,
motivated by like pets and affection, but most cats are motivated by food. But they do need to be motivated by food because cats will only learn to do something if they are bribed.
yep.
Generally speaking, they need to be relatively young, and generally speaking, they need to be, it's not necessarily a smartness factor. This is very interesting in researching it. It's actually a domesticity factor. So you want to look for infantilization domesticity traits. So the cats that have rounder faces, rounder eyes, and smaller ears, so the cats that look the most domesticated, like Persians or Scottish Folds or what have you, the cats that look like kittens even when they're adults, those cats are generally speaking easier to train than cats that have the Abyssinian, like the wild cat traits with the longer snouts and the bigger ears. They tend to be really, really willful and much harder to train. So, so a part of the cat process that I went through when we were picking Lily from the
Mhm.
shelter was I looked for a cat that sort of was a rounder, um, more trainable cat. Also, there are certain markings. So fetcher cats, which are often tabbies and cats that will fetch like dogs will, and tuxedos are also usually easier to train.
Ah,
So cats that are puppy cats that already have sort of dog-like traits, the cats that are super social, they'll run to meet you at the door. They like to be sit on laps. They like attention from humans as opposed to other cats. Those cats are also, generally speaking, slightly easier to train. So there are certain, yeah, orange cats, sometimes, but they do in fact tend to be a little dumb, so a bit harder to train in my experience. I've had the most luck with tuxedos and tabbies, so.
I love
Well,
that.
I guess mine are not going to be trained that way then.
Some of them are difficult. It's also really hard to do too, because you need
Yeah.
to be quite disciplined about punishing them if they mess up in the process.
Mhm.
Mm.
As with training a dog, 90% of the training is actually for the owner.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
so you have to be strict with your cat, which not everybody can be.
Yeah.
It's really hard with two because you don't know who's messed up if one of them messes
Right.
up.
Yeah. Well, the one's way too old. He would never.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe next time.
Maybe next time.
And now
Thank
you
you.
know what
Thank
to
you.
look for.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Yes.
Terry.
Yes.
Uh,
It is, I recommend it. It's very nice. It's much easier to find a cat sitter if the litter box is off the table, so to speak. The litter
If
box
all
is
they
not
have
even
to
in
do is flush.
the house. All you have to do is flush.
Nice.
so nice. Thank you. I wish I had thought to try that with Monsieur Gatto as he fulfilled your
I bet he
criteria.
would be. I bet he looks like he would be pretty trainable, actually.
But I'm the problem, to be honest. I'm not strict enough.
You're very.
That's true. All right, Cindy Joy, now is your chance. Now is your chance, my friends. All right. So I've been a bit lax because there are many of us, but if you will share your favorite character, that's what I want to know, and then ask your question for Miss Gill.
I was really kind of hoping not to have to pick one character, but I did settle on that the airship itself is my favorite character in this book. I really
Aren't you
like
smart? That is.
I like the airship with all the the different levels and the labyrinthine layout, and it's just really
But
it's
also
pretty
setting
fabulous.
as character is a root trope. It's a foundational trope for science fiction and fantasy. So to pick setting as characters is very very tricky.
Yeah, and also with boarding schools, the boarding schools, if the book is at all interesting, the boarding school has a lot of character of its own.
Yeah, I feel that's it the same way about spaceship, like confined spaceship books where you're on a spaceship together. Like I really want the spaceship itself to have personality, and if you've read my sci-fi, you'll notice my spaceships are always very like weird and unique in certain ways. So yeah, I'm with you on the spaceship.
Yeah.
It's-
I always wonder how big the ships actually are in the Star Trek series, because those hallways are gigantic and that's a lot of wasted space. But anyway, yeah, so the airship itself is my favorite character.
Love it.
And I can give you least favorite characters much more easily than picking
No,
out
no,
one
I
of
don't want to
these.
know if you don't like somebody. Unless
Oh,
you're meant to dislike them, of course.
oh well, yeah. Well, Monique, I think I'm
Ah, the mean girl, the one we all know.
yeah,
Close
seriously.
to home, that one.
I even have a picture in my mind of exactly what she looks like, because there was a girl who harassed me in school. Yeah, anyway. Okay, so I have two questions, and I'm going to go with the one that I think is going to be the more interesting answer. So, women and transforming to werewolves or vampires. Why is the failure rate so intensely high?
Ah, it's chromosomally linked. So, um, the Y chromosome carries a higher survival rate. So, generally speaking, too many X chromosomes makes us a little more challenging. However, this does not hold true for all shifter species. So, if you read the San Andreas stuff, you know there are mermaids mucking about, and there are way more females than males in that particular species. And you're going to meet species in the new one, the main character of the new book, and they're pretty 50-50. But yeah, I mean the answer is also especially for queens, because also the makers, they're the ones who can make, and because all females are alphas, just because I felt like it. They can also make. I need to limit the number of alphas and the number of queens that can exist in the universe just for biological restrictive reasons. We can't have too many werewolves and we can't have too many vampires mucking about, or they're gonna kill all of the food source out. So you have to keep as many apex predator limits in place. So the reason it's hard in general to procreate is because it has to be hard for apex predators to procreate. There's one egg for eagles, whereas there's hundreds for chickens, right? Like, and that's
Right.
because you got to keep your populations under control, and nature or supernatural, I suppose, will out. So yeah, it like deep down, I have a whole like mathematical blood chromosomal weird scientific explanation for all of the different metanaturals, supernaturals, preternaturals, and all the different species and everything, which that's all written out. But you know, I've never bothered to like publish it or anything. I suppose I
Well,
could
and I
at some point.
suspected somewhere there was a chart, but
Yes, there's a chart. Exactly. There's a formula, in fact. There's mathematical formulas.
yeah. So
This
I'm
is
on.
wonderful. Such a Gale answer, to be honest.
I know.
Great
I knew there
question,
would
Cindy.
be there'd be a logical explanation, but yeah. So yeah, I'm on waistcoats and weaponry now. And I did so, and I think I
That's
read
my
these.
favorite of the series, I have to say. I
I
love
like it a
Manners and
lot.
Mutiny, but I think Waistcoats is probably my favorite one. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So and I think that I read it first like 11 years ago and
Mhm.
then missed when the next one came out. So
Oh,
I
Manners
have
is a
another
good
one to look
ending. I
for.
have to say, I often like my, I dither often about which ones are my favorites in whatever given series it in, but I often settle on the final books and series because I like writing endings so much. So
Yeah.
I think Manners is good too. It's just, there's something about the train scene in Waistcoats. I just love a freaking runaway train. It's such a bizarre concept because the train is on a track. So how is it running away from everywhere? We all know exactly where it's going, but you know.
But nobody can find it.
Yes, it's still fun to write.
Yeah.
Well, happy
They're
reading,
very fun.
Cindy. It's a
Yeah.
great series. And you know, I'm always down to talk about it in our Discord. So,
Mhm.
all right, Alicia, you are up next. And then Chuck, you'll be after Alicia.
Hi. Um, uh, brain no think good today. I'm
Happens to
sorry.
me all the time.
No, I normally work 5 hour shifts. I worked 8 hours today, so my brain's like not,
Whoosh.
it's here. It's not here. Okay. Um, what was my question? Oh, so spies.
Favorite character, and then you ask your question.
Oh, favorite character and then spies. Okay. So probably my favorite character, or at least the character I found just immediately the most charming, was the werewolf.
Oh, the teacher.
Yes,
Wow.
I'm like, oh, he's gonna be fun. He didn't play a huge role in it. I hope he
No, he's
does
a very
in it.
minor character, but that's someday he has a large role to play and then die. But that's you know, we'll write that book when we feel like it.
Yeah, but I just thought he was just so quietly chill and so very interesting. It was like,
Yeah,
okay, I want
loners
to
are
book
cool characters to write because they're like, you've opted out of the system. How are you doing that and staying sane?
yeah, it just it and it just he kind of in some ways seemed to be sort of the not so much the comrade, but just like I got you, man.
Yeah,
I know you're doing shady shit, but I got you.
I got you.
What was my question? Oh,
Eyes.
um, spies. So, is it? How did you come up with the idea of the school? Are you just a spy fan or just
I am. I
kind
do
of
like spies. I like
okay?
spy literature. I think spies work really well with the heroine's journey because of the disguise factor in most heroines' journeys. Since most heroines tend to be information gatherers, and that's, of course, what spies do. I like it. I was very Sophronia-esque when I was that age. I used to climb trees and just watch people all the time when the people didn't know they were being observed because there was a child in a tree. Um, so I like I'm very sort of sympathetic to the idea of spying. I think it goes along super well with young adult too, because that is the time where you are really intensely observing social structures in society, whether you realize it or not, because you're trying to figure out who you're going to be and how you're going to fit in and what you are when you're not the child of your parents. That's what young adult is. Young adult is moving from childhood to adulthood. And so there's a lot of social observation, and there's a lot of like conceptualization of what culture means to you, and understanding that is this construct that you're about to either um, play into or opt out of one way or another, right? So like I feel like spies work really well with the genre. But frankly, it was the finishing school aspect. I've been fascinated with the idea of finishing school since I heard somebody mention it, probably Gaskell or Austin or something. No, I bet it was a Dickens, where there's a young lady who had returned from finishing school, very much finished. And I was like, well, that's cute. I get what you're doing there, Dickens. But also, what if that wasn't what they finished? What if all of these polite young ladies got sent off and learned all of this other stuff, like how to, so it was actually the assassin bit that came first. And then I was like, oh, and while we're at it, why not spies and assassins? So yeah, it was literally the idea of finishing school that I got my little middies, like my brain just like gripped into, and I was just obsessed with it. Like
Yeah,
this
and
idea that you send your daughters away to a boarding school, essentially, but they're taught all of this essentially completely useless shit, like in Switzerland for some reason. And I was just like, no, 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 let's fix this whole flaw in Victorian society. So yeah.
yeah, it just and it just cracked me up because the first version of the steampunk persona I wrote fits in this universe where she's the placement person, where she has this business where you go into and do uh, uh, product, not so much processes, but setting up offices and doing flows and finding employees and streamlining things, and you pull from these schools that and it's like,
Wait a
I
second.
know a school. I was like, wait, I belong here.
That's the other thing. I mean, like, the other thing is if you're gonna create a boarding school whole cloth, it better be a boarding school that young ladies really want to go to, right?
Yeah,
Just in my world.
So good.
yeah.
Oh, Alicia, I love that you asked that question. What a great question. I know you're fried, but it's really good to have you here too.
I
It's
am
good to see you.
completely.
Thank you for making it. And good luck with all of the nonsense of retail season. Chuck, the time is yours, my friend. Favorite character, and then you may ask Gail your question.
All right. Well, as always, thank you and Bill for getting us all together and to get the author here. It's always amazing and appreciated. Thank you, thank you. Yep. And so my favorite character was Soap. Uh, yeah, he's because he's all confident and knows what he's doing and can do like and he's I think they say that he does twice the work of any other person down there, and he's one of the unknown people that makes the ship work, but he's the guy that he's super confident and he knows what he's doing and he always says the right thing. It's just he's the kind of character that I want to be kind of thing. you
Aspirational.
know
Yes.
yes, so I'm fascinated that you have like this whole chart of organizing how the werewolves and the queens and all you went into that level. That's just fascinating that yeah, to hear that part of the creativity of these books and things is just wow. But so I guess I was wondering if there's any kind of did you have any kind of person that you're thinking of when an actual person when you created Soap, or is it just an amalgamation or
In
your
part,
imagination?
so Soap is dedicated. I can't remember which book is dedicated. One of the books is written to Trev, and that's my mom's partner of many, many years. And Soap is in part or owes some of his DNA to Trevor. Um, who's also one of those quietly competent, incredibly efficient, and very cogent individuals. He's a sheetrocker. Um, and so, like a similar kind of like building, making things go, making things work, and just incredibly good at his job. And so, yeah, in part, I'm often informed by friends and family and stuff like that. Not always, but soap is other people I have met in my life, and that they're all of most of my characters are little amalgams and also sort of whole cloth inventions. And often I'm pulling characters in because I want them because science fiction and fantasy is so setting dependent, and it's really important to make sure you try to pull characters that represent different parts of those kinds of settings. And so I really always intended to have a lower class character as a love interest for Sophronia because I wanted to address that discrepancy in the time period, right? That issue in the time period. And also, I explicitly always intended to write them as characters who could not get married and would not be married. That is not the end game for them. A, they're too fucking young. And B, it doesn't really matter for what they want to do with their lives. And C, I think it's important for young people to read about A, the class struggles and things that people had in the past, but B, like a happy ending that is not marriage, because that is not the choice that everybody makes. And I like to make sure that all of my romance arcs or romance bits, even if they're just tiny little threads in my books, are examples of different kinds of romance. They don't always follow the same thread of an end game that the most standard romance novels do, for lack of a better way of putting it. So there are many reasons for me to choose Soap. But yeah, but also whole character in his own right, and a lot of fun to write. And you will see me lean on. He is an archetype of a character that I lean on a lot, which is a quietly competent individual. I love somebody who's really fucking good at their job. I don't know what it's very appealing and romantic to me.
I get
So
it. Yeah. Nice, thank you.
Thank you, Chuck. Great question. And also I love soaps. I'm delighted you asked. He's one of my he's one of my favorites in your entire opus. He's a
yes,
great character.
there's a couple of X's in Soap, I gotta say as well. Some of the X's of which I'm quite fond, I will add, but yeah.
Very charming. Yeah, very charming. All right, Kelsey, you are up next, my friends.
Okay. First, I got to panel at TeslaCon last weekend, and one of the things that they had me do was fill in for teaching a writing steampunk panel, and I got to tell a whole bunch of would-be authors about how you use a real history book and put your own timeline in there. So they absolutely love that advice on there, and I told them to go and find your posts or videos or something like that on there because I'm like, there's a lot more of a deep dive on here, but here's what Gail does for her series, and it works really well for her, and it's really, really smart and saves you a lot of trouble. But with the favorite character, for me, goodness, it's a huge toss-up, but between, and I'm going to butcher the name because I read things as they're written, but
That's fair.
City? Yes,
Today.
I'm partial to her, and I'm also partial to Sofrina because, like, I also would have had the intrusive thought of going into the dummy to see how it works. But what really won me over with her is, other than just her tendency to follow through with what she wanted to do, was the way that she would humanize the mechanicals. And I love that she got offended about the mechanicals not having all of their face bits on, and like that she was the first one to take in the dog. And I'm just like, oh, that's me. I'm the kind of person who would also want to befriend the automatons and things like that. But having said that, I'd love to hear more about your process for how you write your technology, because you do a beautiful job of making the tech side of things just feel part of the world building without doing the Jules Verne thing of spending a paragraph explaining how something is boring your readers. I love him, but he loses me sometimes.
That's part of it is I want to make, again, setting character, so I want to make it as sort of seamless and natural feeling as possible, right? So much in the same way that the descriptions of the dresses being sort of period to the time are just there. Like when you're wearing a dress, you're wearing this kind of fabric and this kind of dress. When you're in a steampunk universe, it's like this kind of technology. I also only describe the tech if it's going to become part of plot or it's going to become part of the story. So the mechanicals are obviously very important because they're the arc of the whole story. So I have to, as a writer, continually remind you guys that the mechanicals are there and that they exist throughout the whole, all four books. But and the dirigible and all that sort of thing as well. Or I'm describing the tech because it is silly and ridiculous and funny, and it is an instrument of humor, which is also what I do for a lot of the clothing. So I will spend some time describing something if I have decided I am amused by it, and then I'm just to waste all of your time, but hopefully I leave you laughing. So those are kind of like the two rules I obey as an author, I would say. But yeah, I mean, the idea of somebody who's not me once said, and I can't even remember where or when I heard it, but that the definition of science fiction is that if you removed the science from the fiction, the entire story would fall apart. That's what makes it science fiction. And same thing with fantasy. If you remove the fantasy world from the fantasy, the story doesn't work. So the magical system when you're writing fantasy must be integral to all aspects. It must be part of the story. It must be part of the mystery that's driving what the readers are interested in and learning about the universe. It must be part of the characters. And if it's not, it's just trappings. You can strip it out, then it's not a fantasy book. You're telling a romance with some fantasy dressing, right? And so that's also part of it. I was like, this is, if I am going to call myself steampunk, the steampunk bits must be so germane to the book that if you lifted them out, the book would, and shook the book, it would fall apart, right? So that's kind of also what I was thinking about. A lot more with the YA, frankly, than with the Parasol Protectorate series. And I have to admit that now we're spending a lot of time outside of sort of steampunk central in the latest book. And so there's very little steampunk at all. It sort of comes in and out of the book occasionally, but until we get back to London, it's not really relevant. So I don't know that I could really legitimately call this next book steampunk at all, but
Steampunk adjacent, it's
steampunk
fine.
adjacent, exactly. But yeah, I hope that answers the question.
It does. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Kelsey. Great question, as usual, my friend. All right, Sharon, music fan Sharon, because we have two Sharons today, so that's why I'm like specifying. Sharon, favorite character and a question for Miss Gale.
Well, I liked how did you pronounce Sid
Haig.
Haig?
Yeah.
Sid Haig. Okay, so I was saying it right. All right.
Yeah. I mean, I pronounce in Gaelic, it's something I could
Okay.
not possibly attempt. So
Yeah, but simply because of that outsider quality.
yeah.
You just feel like she's such the outsider. And as I was reading her, I was thinking back to the Breakfast Club. Like I was having flashes of, oh, the girl in the Breakfast Club who was the very, very much outsider, who was just sitting there and kind of moping around and, just wanting to be in, but wanting to be out. And, the same thing. So I really liked Sid Haig. Eager to read the rest of the books to see where she progresses because I haven't done those.
She's a chronic recurring character. She appears in a lot of the other books in the series as well. She's one of those characters that
I was
I
hoping.
picked up and then never put back down again.
But I was hoping.
Yeah,
So.
yeah.
And then my question.
She and Vive are two characters that are introduced in Changeless in the second book I ever wrote. And they're the only two that I knew would absolutely be reused in the Finishing School series. So I actually wrote her in the second book of the first series, and then went backtracked and wrote her as a child. I mean, there's a little couple of tiny mentions of Sophronia as not in the original series, but Siddiq is the one who is named.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm eager to read all of them now. So needless to say. So my question was just kind of, I love the weaponry that you threw in there. So like I love the exploding wicker chicken as an idea, as well as the what the quote of, well, who doesn't need an exploding
Who
liquid
doesn't
chicken
want it
is,
of oh, it's a wonderful gift.
and the boiled beet projectiles, as well as the fan and sprinkle, but I just love those concepts. But so explain any big idea, like where you got any of those from, because they just seem so out there to me.
Those
Any
are
one of
me.
those.
Those are silliness. I just like to be straight up silly. But also I'm being insidious. It's funny. Some people clock me and I will get an email that's like, I see what you're doing, Gail. And some people will not clock me. And this is one of the ones that's never been clocked, which is I don't like guns. So I don't use guns in most of my books. And it's real complicated to write spy characters in this period of time without guns. And I actually did go when I was writing these books, I went to a shooting range to shoot a 22 just to see. I think you should, if you're going to write about something, you should know like what it feels like. Da, da, da. But I actually was captain of my archery team in college. And so I knew we were going to lean on we were going to lean on a crossbow in particular. It's more accurate, easier to use. So, but yeah, so I don't, there are many reasons. I personally don't like guns. I don't like handling them. I find it an unpleasant feeling to hold one in my hand. I don't know, too much power or something. But also I don't like the general glorification of guns that Hollywood is gets behind a little too much. And so I knew I was never it was never going to be a sort of a signature tool for any of my characters. And you will notice that they all often have signature weapons of some kind, a bladed fan, a weaponized Swiss Army parasol, etc. But they never have guns. So Lord Macon has a sundowner, and that's about it. And that's a gun that's specifically designed to kill supernatural creatures. Yeah. So that's part of it. Is I knew if you're writing spies and assassins, you still have to have weapons, and so it's me. So to make those weapons as silly as possible, but still deadly. Yeah. And then I just let loose on it with my particularly pun pun addicted sense of humor, and away we go.
I loved it. I loved them. I loved all of them, and just envisioning all of these things happening.
But
The
that's,
just
I
oh,
mean,
it's just it was funny. It was fun. It was great.
and it's part of steampunk for me, like the whimsy of steampunk, because I came to writing steampunk as the as aestheticist who was part of the world of steampunk, the conventions of steampunk and stuff. And there's so much whimsy in the way people put their costumes together, and the way people interact with each other, and the way people develop characters that they're going to inhabit in the steampunk universe. That like the whimsy was something really important for me to make sure to include as a thread through these books in particular, because they were books for kids. And I want it, I want, I want my younger readers to have a good time and just enjoy themselves and imagine themselves in this world and part of these friendship groups, and making sure that and there's I mean, I don't know about you guys in your high school experiences, but my high school experiences was full of whimsy. I mean, that was when I discovered Monty Python, for example, which is sort of the ultimate in whimsicalness, right? I mean, that those things are sort of married in my brain. And so it's just really important to me that like we not lose that sense of wonder. I think it's the most important part of childhood to try to keep with you and not change or let go of as you enter adulthood. That play notion. And so I tried to thread it through everything, including the deadly technology.
Well, thank you. I loved it.
Thank you, Sharon. Great question. All right, Laura, you're up next, and then Ronald.
Okay, so I have to say that my favorite character is Vive for sure. I love having her go through all of the finishing school books and then in the Parasol Protectorate as well. Also, oh, and my question is about Bumbersnoot. Um, do Is there a reason that you made him a sausage dog just because it's ridiculous, or
No, so I am a cat person, but I also very much like dogs. I've never lived with or grown up with dogs, but I've always been around them. I had a very good friend who used to be service dog trainer, so we used to have training dogs in my friendship group constantly. But a friend of a friend had a sausage dog named Dink. And Dink and I were a little bit of soulmate-ish, shall we say. And so I have great affection for Dachshunds and especially ones named Dink because great name, really. And so that is where the idea came from. I also, they're just sort of lozenge purse shaped. I mean, it's a good shape for a bag. So it's like, if we're gonna make a dog an accessory, like literally and figuratively. There are many things to unpack with this. So yeah, it was never in my brain that he would be anything but a sausage dog. It was just so perfect. It's also whimsical and silly and ridiculous. They are the funniest looking dogs. Like, no offense to anybody who has one, but
I had
who
one. I
cannot watch
know.
one walking down the street and not just like giggle? Like they're it's like a Pomeranian. Similarly, a Pomeranian is a one of those ones that look like little old men with long beards. Anyway, yeah, I am a huge fan of the Westminster Dog Show, especially the toy category. It is one of the great delights of my life if I get a chance to watch it. I happen to catch it on television.
Great question, Laura. And I've met your dog, so double plus. Excellent. All right, Ronald, you are up next, my friends.
Thank you, now. Gail, I'm afraid I have been a little lax in reading your work because I had the books, but I never got around to reading them. But when I saw that this first book in the second series that you wrote was one of our books for the club, I said, well, I should acquaint myself with Gail's work. So I went back and read the Parasol Protectorate, and I was overwhelmed. I
Oh,
mean, I zipped through those books, one right after the other. Just couldn't stop myself.
oh.
And then I got stepped back from it. That was several months ago. Stepped back and began to read, or rather read, the first book in your second series, the one we're talking about today, and I read it like a week and a half ago. And then I did something that I shouldn't have done. I leaped right into the second book. And so, but I did realize something that as you've mentioned before, they're so connected. All these books, it's like one gigantic book. They're seamless. And I said, "Oh, this is great." Of course, now I'm all mixed up with the second book and the first book and all that. But I said, "Who cares?" Uh,
They're all in
and
my
then
head that way too, so don't
exactly.
worry about
And
it.
so I've actually finished the second book. I'm in the third one.
Now you're a
Oh,
fan for life, Ronald.
Yes,
That's
I've
uh,
how it
got you
works.
now. There's no
am
going
I? Oh, too bad. Too
back.
bad. Sorry.
Ronald, are you having a little technology glitch, my
Yes,
friend?
yes, yes.
It's all right. We can come back when your technology has settled and you can ask your question. Or if you think you've got it sorted, we can ask now.
Ah, ah. I'm back now.
All
Can you
right,
hear me?
great.
Okay, okay.
Yes.
I hit something with my mouse. But what I was going to say was that my characters, the they are characters. I really liked all of the characters in this book.
Oh.
Um, but there were two characters that I was really drawn to when they came up. They're minor characters, I guess, but Bumbershoot, Snoot, Bumbersnoot. Every time he came up, and he's really pivotal in a couple or three scenes, I'm going, wow, this is great. What's he going to do each time he shows up? Besides chew up, you know, whatever is around.
Yes. Burn
And
something, send something, deposit some ash somewhere.
exactly, exactly. And um, and also Vive is
Yes.
I really loved her character in the
Oh.
Parasol Protectorate. Really did. I thought she was remarkable. And so it
Genevieve
was
is one
really
of my favorites. Yeah.
and really it was great to see the how are you going to develop her over time at this age, you know. And I would really love to see, I don't know, I have not read past, of course, these books, but I have all of them, and I plan on reading all of them
Oh,
very soon. And I'm my original question was going to be, are you continuing with the series? But you've already answered that.
yes.
So I'm very happy to hear that. But I would like to say, I don't know whether you're doing this in any other book, but I know I would love to see something about Vive when she's at school, in the
Oh,
boys' school.
in yes. No, I didn't ever write that bit. It's alluded to.
Mm.
But
Oh, okay.
she does briefly she gets her own book eventually,
Oh,
just the one,
good.
but she gets her own little book. Yeah, so don't worry about Vive, it'll all be all right. And then she gets a
Very good.
couple look-ins in the Custard Protocol series as well. So you get to see her later
Very,
on in life as well. Yeah,
very
she's a
good. I
favorite character of mine, I have to say.
just want to let you know that I really, really, really enjoy
Hmm,
this series of books you're writing. Really, really enjoy them.
thank you.
Oh, Ronald, may I say, my work here is done. I am so delighted to hook another fan for Gail.
Aw.
Excellent. Thank you. All right. Also, wonderful comments, my friends. Christina, it is your, no, Tracy, then Christina. I apologize. I skipped over Tracy. Tracy, it is your turn. So if you have a favorite character, you need to
It's the
unmute yourself.
chicken.
The chicken.
Oh my God, they were at Target or something, and I must have gotten 20 various social media posts of people spotted them. Like everybody was like, I saw a wicker chicken. I must immediately tell Gail. It was wonderful.
Yes. So I finally figured out how to unmute myself. I was over too far, but yes, they were Target.
Ah, oh, they're
I
so
love
cute.
my wicker chicken. But I was ready. I had all my books sitting here and my wicker chicken waiting my
Yay!
turn. So Franya is my favorite character, although I do love Soap very much. I love all the characters in this book.
Thank you.
Okay, come poke your head over here. I know you want to. My granddaughter's here.
Hello.
So, okay, that's all. Go on. Uh, so I guess, and I had asked you before when you were in Chicago in August, whether or not you would do any more with these characters. And of course, you pointed out you have Poison and Protect and some of the
Yeah,
others.
these three.
But so my question is, in a begging sense, will we ever get to know how Madame Geraldine, how the
Oh,
ship came?
oh, the creation of the ship. Oh my goodness,
Yes.
I've never
And
thought about that. You were the first person to ask that question. Because that would be
well,
way
because
back, right? That would be like, the
did
1920s.
somebody have it before her?
I don't know. I don't know the
Yes.
backstory of the ship. That is interesting
That's
because in identifying the ship as a character, one must of course have the backstory for the character. And I tend to know backstories for almost all of my characters unless I don't want to know it. Because I might need to figure it out later. But I never figured out the backstory of the ship. The ship was just there. It's like
well,
the school is already built.
well, for me, and I don't know if you consider the finishing school a prequel to the Parasol Protectorate,
I do. Yeah.
but the prequel to the ship and where it came from, how it started. Were there other classes of spy girls
Yeah.
before these? How did the ship come into
Well, there
being?
are because you meet a few of them in some of the latter books. You're like, wait a second. And of course, I mean, those of you who do not want to spoiler, plug your ears for the next 5 seconds. And Mrs. Barnacle Goose is a graduate, right? So we know that there must have been a generation of earlier, at least. Um,
True.
so yeah. Anyway, uh,
Oh,
so yes, I suspect the school is old. I mean, how long it would have to be as maybe one of the earlier dirigibles ever built or something like that.
Right, because there were all these
Technology, yeah.
women who were in the computer room where they all are. currently.
Yeah. Anyway.
Oh, great question, Tracy. Also, thanks for bringing your wicked chicken for all of us.
To the party.
Yes. And it's so good to have you back. It's good to see you, friends. All right, Christina, now is your chance. And then Phyllis. All right. Thank you, everyone.
All right. It's funny. This was the very first book I ever, listened to by Gail. It was my first introduction to the whole world. And I had just gotten into steampunk and was looking for something to listen to on a road trip with my daughter, who was much younger then. And of course, fell head over heels like the rest of us. And that first listen, it was a very different experience than going back and listening again, having read all of Solus and the Custard and going on to the novellas. It's very different coming back and seeing those characters from a different light, if that makes sense. And I would say the first time I read this, Agatha wasn't my favorite. But having read all the way through everything, it's a totally different perspective. And you see this whole different angle of her in the same words, just knowing all the backstory and the future of what's coming, that she really, that changed her for me a lot. I'd say she's my favorite.
Oh, that's so cool. That one of the reasons I write sandbox style, which is what I call this style, like the Valdemar books by Mercedes Lackey or the Pern, but
Yes.
the idea that you write all of these books set in this one universe, but they're in different pockets of time or whatever. And one of the reasons to do that as an author is for this exact thing, because I am a chronic rereader and I like to sort of reward rereaders. And basically, what that means is the more you learn about a character, if you then go back and reread something, you should understand all like the character completely differently on that reread because you've learned more about them in the future. And so I'm so glad that that happened for you with Agatha. Agatha's a challenging character
Mm-hmm.
because of, who and what she is. But there's a reason I picked her up and had to like write the end of her story. She was one of the most necessary ones, I think, for me, because she is, for those of you who finished the series, because she is a difficult character in the context of this series. She's the one that I think I most wanted to understand. And that meant
Mm-hmm.
writing her kind of entire story in the future. So she's the first character who gets a long form piece from me too. I tend to write relatively tight time frames for most of my books over the courses of, in some cases, just a week or two, and in other cases, these sort of year little pockets of of activity. But Agatha's book, for those of you who haven't read it, is pretty much the whole arc of her story. It picks back up and starts you during the finishing school books, but you get stuff from her perspective, so you get her side of some of what happened in the finishing school books, and then you follow her along through pretty much the whole course of the rest of her life. So yeah.
It was magical. I love seeing Pillover too. So
Yeah,
that just,
Pillover,
it was all.
Pillover is one of my favorites. I love an ornery little snarky monster character. They're a lot of fun, right? This
He's
sort of
magical. So
this sort of just 10-year-old with ennui, like the woes of the world. You're like, yes, but also I know those 10-year-olds.
yes, yes. So
Great
with that,
comment.
is there anyone else that you think you'll give more of a long form like that? I always tend to see a lot of Vive throughout the books, but do you have any other
Yeah.
characters that really might get more of that?
If I were, I'm always hesitant to write Seghead because she's so long form, because she's so complicated, because she shows up in everything. If I were gonna write her, she would have to be long form. And then the one I'm currently writing, one of the reasons it's going long is because it's long form. And it's a new character and then a very minor side character who nobody's ever asked me about, but I've always been curious to learn about another spy character. And so, and this one is even longer long form because these are two immortals. So we're going stretching, especially far back in time. Yeah, I promised Piper, among others, that I would write what's called a Nooner romance, which is basically, although this book is not a romance, it has a romantic thread, but it's not actually, it turns out, a romance. It's just a story. But a Nooner romance is when it's an older woman with a younger man. And then I was like, well, if I'm going to write a Nooner romance, I'm going to do it Gail Carriger style. So he is a young whippersnapper of approximately 200, and she's about 600 years old. So the age gap of it all, shocking. So yeah, so that's what you're gonna. They meet when he's even younger. Oh no, he's like 60 or something. Right. So yeah, it's gonna be
Shocking,
the
shocking.
scandal.
Oh my
The
gosh.
flaw.
Christina, excellent questions, excellent observations. Thank you, my friend. All right, Phyllis, you are up next, and then Wayne, you'll be after Phyllis.
Hello. Um, this was my first introduction to this world, and again, I have loved it. They just, yeah, the writing, characters, everything just really appealed to me. Um, two of the characters nobody's mentioned yet that um as much as I loved everybody, just they definitely added interest to the stories was Lady Lynette and Dr. Braithwaite.
Ah, some of the teacher characters.
Yeah, some of the teacher ones, because you don't really know. I mean, the Dr. Braithwaite, it's like you he seems like a little clueless, and yet you know he's probably not. Um, and same thing with Lady Lunette. You do have a sense that she definitely has her finger on the pulse of everything, but maybe chooses to let the young ladies
Dismiss her as frivolous. Yes.
exactly, exactly. Um, yeah, so I enjoyed those. And I guess I don't really have a question, but I definitely got a real giggle out of the chapter where the gals and the young group had snuck off the ship while everybody else at the school was off watching the show. And as they're coming back, they find out that the captain is in werewolf form and out on the moor. And Sophronia loses all her petticoats. It
Yes,
made me
escape.
laugh because since Madam is working on her underpinnings, and we have had so much talk about dirty undergarments, it just clicked and just really made me laugh. Talking about her sturdy horsehair petticoat that did not survive for an
Does
instant.
not make it.
So thank you for that. It just
My
tied in
pleasure.
perfectly with this month of everything.
My
I love
pleasure.
that. Thank you, Phyllis. Also, I'm happy to be a small part of that. All right, Wayne, you are up next, my friend.
Oh, where'd he go?
Oops.
There he
There
is.
he is.
Hi. Oh, he's
Hi,
Hello,
muted.
people.
Wayne.
Wayne, you have muted yourself somehow. You're not showing as muted, so maybe his microphone's not working.
Can you talk for us a moment, Wayne, and let's see if we can hear you?
Yes, I'm trying to talk. Let's see.
There you
Can
are.
you hear
There
me?
you are.
You're
There you are.
there.
Okay. Yes, it was a very interesting read. My first venture into any of your books. It was interesting the aspect of a different style of finishing to learn that. Um, yes, it was. I've since looked up in the library to find the other three books in the series. My library doesn't have curtsies and conspiracies, so hopefully I can get waistcoats and weaponry, and hopefully eventually I can find someone who can loan me curtsies and
Curtsies, yes.
conspiracies.
I'm trying to remember what happens in Curtsies. Second book in series. I don't remember very well.
Hopefully I can.
Possible you
If
can skip straight on to waistcoats, although I don't know. I've never read it that way. So
but yes, an interesting aspect into often people think of finishing school, to get them ready for society, to get them, but finishing them off and killing them. Yes, that's a different style. I like all the characters, and listening to the talks this morning about soap and all the other, all the other characters. I like them all, and it was an interesting blend to sit to read about them and to different aspects of the society. It was a thoroughly charming read and a good introduction to your work. And yes, I plan on reading more of your books as I can acquire them.
Oh, wonderful.
Thank you, Wayne.
Hopefully, by skipping book 2 and just going into book 3, it won't be a major faux pas.
Yeah, I think it'll be fine. You might miss out on a little bit, but you should get caught up relatively quickly.
Also, I hear that Karen is going to lend you her copies, Wayne. So
Karen says she can lend them to you, so you'll be good.
Yes. Well, okay. I'm sending her soon, so perhaps I'll wait until she's loaned me then before I start getting book 3 from the library, because otherwise, not a fan of reading things out of order, but willing. But if Karen's willing to loan me book 2, I can then read book 2, and then 3 and 4.
Thank you, Wayne. Do you have a question as well for Miss Gale, or are you satisfied with your moment?
I'm satisfied. Thank you.
You're so welcome. It's always lovely to have you here. All right, Hannah, I know you're feeling a bit under the weather, but now is your moment, my friends.
First of all, I was very happy to have an excuse to read this. I have a giant TBR list, but my friend got married in 2021 and she designed her wedding gown off of Somebody in Parasol and Protectorate series. So I've been meaning to read you for a while. But I have a question about the Mechanimals. So like they just send these critters over to other people and like abandon them? Like can you bug them for like purses or like espionage? Like you be a spy dog and then run away?
I mean, Bumbersnoot has a whole little character arc through these books, and he is quite pivotal throughout. So more will be revealed as you go along if you decide to continue the series. But really, the Mechanicals and Mechanimals are kind of the point of the whole series. Because if you come to these books having read the first books in the series, they don't exist in the future. And so part of the discussion, or do they, right? Part of the discussion is what happened? There they are peopling this steampunk universe. What happened to them? And that has to do with my PhD that didn't happen because I was doing a PhD on technological abandonment, voluntary cultural technological abandonment. And so I basically wrote a whole fictional young adult series to cope with the fact that I had to abandon my own PhD to become an author. So yeah, so the life and the reason behind them is actually a pretty important part of the book, it turns out eventually. So you're on the right, you're sniffing around the right plot point.
Well, thank you.
Hannah, I'm glad you could be here. Feel better soon, my friend. All right, Nan, I'm so happy you made it. Welcome.
I am too. It was, yeah. Thank you so much for the reminder. Really, both you and Bill. I mean, looking at, okay, I have to fangirl for a minute because Gail, you're one of my favorite authors, and I would not be writing the things I'm writing now if it weren't for Soulless.
Oh,
so I'm just, and if I had to say my favorite character, favorite, it would be Alexia, because if I were to be put in that time with those constrictions, she's the kind of person I would want to be. So, I mean, but in the finishing school, now I'm going to say this the French way because I don't know how you would pronounce it, but I love Canal.
Ah,
I mean, he's delightful and he has this passion for what he does that I find utterly
wait,
charming.
is he in the finishing school books?
I thought he was. Am I
No, he's in the
misplacing him?
well,
Maybe
He's
not.
in the Custard
in the
Protocol.
Custard
He's in the
Protocol books,
yes.
and he's in the Parasol Protectorate books as a child.
Yes.
So enthusiastic about what he does.
Well,
He
okay, so I'm
explodes
getting
it.
them mixed up. It's been a while.
But I'm glad you love him because nobody loves him. So
him.
I'm very delighted that you love him because I
Because
will
I
be a
mean, you
fan.
watch him grow, and the curiosity is rewarded, and
Yes.
you know that was
Yeah,
where
yeah.
I wanted to be. So I adore him.
Aw, yay.
And my question is, you have okay, I struggle naming characters. And I do all this research to try and find the perfect, and your characters have these magnificent names. And do you dig and struggle, or do they just come to you?
A few of them come to me. Mostly I actually research and investigate them. And for the Parasol books in particular, I'm very invested in making sure that the names have good meanings, but
Yes.
also they need to sound like they came from the right time period. So, like, I chose Sophronia is a great example because that is a name that is very much associated only with the Victorian era and slightly before. And so you get it on like headstones in that time period and stuff like that. But it's pretty much dead now. Although there is a Sophronia now because named after my books, which is very flattering. But it became Sophia. That's pretty much what that name evolved into, or it's a version of Sophia, essentially, Sophronia. So yeah, so I pick like Faith, like I pick the names for my characters because they are indicative of the character's time and place of birth. So I want it to sound familiar, but a little old-fashioned, basically, to readers. And then the other thing I do when I'm writing, which I've talk about, I did it sort of naturally but instinctively, and then I realized I should probably talk about it for people who are writers out there, is I try to people the books with characters whose first names are start with a different letter. So that for people like me who are slightly dyslexic, when you're reading and you see those capitals on the page, you don't cross associate too commonly with the wrong characters. Now, there's Sophronia and Sidheg in this one, but that's because I had to use Sidheg because she was an S character when there weren't very many S characters in the Parasol Protectorate books. But so I do have a double down S characters, but like Dimity is specifically chosen with that name and the capital D because I don't have a lot of D first name characters. So, I am thinking about that as well when I'm naming characters to make sure it's a pleasant reading experience from that perspective, especially when you're dealing with a large ensemble cast of characters, which I almost always am. So, yeah. But also, I do think about the meanings. A lot of the characters that are wolves have names that mean wolf. And I also think about the backstories for all of the wolves, like how old they might be and which part of the world they would have come from when I'm picking their names as well. So yeah, but I love it. I love naming characters, I love titling books, and I love chapter titles too, which I know for a fact there are lots of writers that hate all of those things. I just happen to love them. So yeah.
Oh,
well, you're
great
genius at it,
question,
that's for
Nan.
sure.
Great question. And also, yeah, I echo Nan's statement. I love your names. All right, Mary, would you like to ask your question? Your camera's on. Please take a stab at it. Yeah.
I'm here. So, I love
Sophronia.
I can't spell. Sophronia.
Sophronia, however you want.
Who knows? And with soap, and I'm wondering if there'll ever be another story.
So
about
they
their-
show up act as an active pair in a couple of books now. So they show up in the short story Meet Cute, which is actually a
That's
prequel
I've
to
read.
Soulless.
And
And then
they're in
I
the
mean
wedding
it's a
scene.
it's a big giveaway, but they're in their current book as well. By pure propinquity. I didn't mean for them to show up, and then there they are. This is what happens when you write spy characters. They're just there.
I was
whether you want
also
them.
rereading one of the Shifters books recently, and I was wondering if there would ever be the story of the transition between the Parasol universe and the
Super
modern
saturation.
universe.
Probably not, for various reasons, not the least of which is contractual. But I need to keep those two universes ostensibly separate, at least in the eyes of people who really would care.
It was just barely mentioned at the end of Agatha's book.
Yeah,
I
and
believe.
it's referenced by Judd in Judd's book in particular, which is Enforcer Enigma, because he lived through it. But the problem with it, from my personal perspective, is it is World War I and World War II, and I do not want to write about them. I find them, unpleasant historical time periods to research. I always say my interest in the past ends when the corset does. So, yeah. So
And
Thank you,
I'm just
Mary.
hoping to
Great
see you
questions.
in June at Chicago.
Oh yes, I'm hoping that happens too.
And
I know,
hopefully that
it's
the
a ways
T-Scouts
away.
can
So
welcome you.
yeah.
Thank you, Mary. All right. We are a little bit past time, so I'm going to I know, Karen, I have not forgotten about you.
We'll go as fast as
You
possible.
you must be calm. So Jess Cheshire asks, is there a meta-natural in the not quite Parasol verse San Andreas Shifters series?
Well, both the preternaturals and the metaнаturals become something else, right? They become the sort of sumage mage concepts. But the concept of a meternatural, like a shifter who can steal the forms of other shifters, I have not needed in the San Andreas universe, but if I want it, I might pick it back up again. It's a useful skill set. I mean, there's a reason I wrote a whole series about that character, because that's the one I would pick. If I really got to pick what I got to be, I would choose to be a meternatural. I think that's so much fun. What a great idea to get to try on a bunch of different forms.
Love that. It is such a great character. And also, everyone needs to read the Custard Protocol once you're done with this series, obviously. All right, Karen, I promise I did not forget about you. Favorite character and one quick question.
So, the favorite characters, all of them sort of resonate something with me, but it depends. Like the first time I read it was Sophronia and Vive because they were adapting to society and doing their own thing. This time round, I think it was Bumbersnoot because I needed that whimsy in my headspace at the moment. So it's probably just for that. But also, can I just say, because every time you have a live or something, I can't make it due to time zones, so finally I can, that when I was starting to write back in 2012 for various reasons, your writer voice was something that really resonated with me. At the time, I needed that knowledge that I could write with whimsy and humour and something different, because a lot of stuff was similar. And so I don't often get to say that to an author in person, but you have been a big influence on what I've written, along with Agatha Christie and Kerry Greenway, a whole heap of other people. So I really, really want to thank you for that. And you helped me find my voice and explore my writing and also deal with some of my headspace stuff too. So thank you very much.
Oh, thank you. It's an honor and a privilege. Sometimes I cannot believe I'm at the point in my career where people say that to me. It's amazing, truly.
They were very important books at a time I really needed to hear that sort of thing. So thank you very much.
My pleasure.
There you go.
Thank you, Karen. Thank you. All right, everyone. A round of applause silently, because we're here in Zoom, for dear Miss Gale, who has been an absolute pip, as you always are, my darling. Thank you.
It's been lovely.
Thank you. Thank you.
I do feel like I showed up to get complimented. And frankly, I could use it right now. So I'm very grateful to you all. It's been a lovely, lovely evening for me. I much appreciate it.
Well, one of the things I love about our book chats, my darling friend, is that it is a place where we are going to do a lot of complimenting. And this is not a literary theory class. We don't have to be mean about it. We can simply enjoy things. And it's so wonderful to enjoy your work, all of us together. Thank you for really inspiring the whole book chat, book club experience in the very beginning. 15 years going because of your books.
Wow. Wow. Well, I am honored to have been chosen for the month of November, and I hope the books cheered you up and made everything a little bit easier to deal with, if nothing else.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank
So
you.
go forth, keep reading, and practice some whimsy just because you can, right?
We absolutely will. And you know I shall. And everyone, of course, your homework from me is to go read more of Gail's books. There are many. You should read them all. And then you know the best gift you can give any author is to leave a review. And your review does not have to be very long. It can really be, I liked it so much. It was better than Cats. I will read it again and again.
So and so is my favorite character. That is a great review, and you can leave a review wherever you feel like it. It doesn't have to be on Amazon, and you can go anywhere else. Storygraph, whatever. Doesn't matter to me. But
And you
yes,
can copy paste the same review a million
and
places.
put it wherever you like. So,
I
but thank you
believe.
all so much for asking such fantastic questions. I really was delighted to answer all of them. What fun questions.
Thank you, Gail. And yes, everyone gets a gold star, A++. Bill, you have some last business to share with all of us before we say good night to our dear guest author and to all of you for the year.
Well, we're not quite ready to release the full list of next year's books, but I wanted to give everyone a sneak peek on January's book, which is Esprit de Corps by F. Deal. So that will be the January book, and we'll post it in the on the book chat Facebook page. If you didn't note it down here, that's fine. You'll see it again. The list will be coming out in a day or two, the full list for next year. The other thing I wanted to mention is, and I don't know if, Madam, if you can spotlight me for a second, because this
Yes,
is
I certainly can. One
sort of
moment.
small.
There you go. Take the spotlight, friend.
And it's backwards. Of course it is. I have
Not to
the
us.
I read banned books stickers, and I would be delighted to send one to any of you that wants one. So, how should we do this? I guess if you will contact me on Facebook through the book chat, and we'll set up. We'll get things squared away. I'll get your mailing address and mail one to you. So just let me know if you would like one.
Thank you, Bill. What a lovely way to finish the year. A wee gift from Bill. We'll figure out how to facilitate that. Everyone, we will be back in January with Esprit de Corps by F. Deal, a lovely steampunk read to start us out, and 10 more months of good reads next year. Thank you all for spending a really extraordinary 2025 reading together with us. It's a pleasure to keep sharing these books, and I'm so delighted we've all leaned into it's steampunk adjacent, and that is just good enough. So, and again, a wonderful, big, heartfelt love to our dear guest author, Gail. What a pleasure to end our year with you, my darling friend. Safe travels. Be safe. Have a wonderful time. And of course, Piper has been our guest as well. We loved Piper's book this year. And we are all
I
sending our
will
love.
send her. I will let her know that you all send your regards, and
Yes.
she will be delighted.
Great. Wonderful. And with that, my darlings, I'm going to send us all off into the ether. So please remember, most important of all, to treasure yourselves as I treasure you. And especially going into the holiday season, please get your vaccines and boosters, wash your hands, eat those vitamins and minerals, drink the good tea, and frankly, do something kind for yourself and a kindness for others. which could be a book review. That's a very kind thing to do, just to finish it all up. We'll see you in January. Take care, everyone. Cheers.